Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Web3 Quick Bite podcast, the podcast where we jam to the latest beats in the decentralized world and where we also talk to some of the brilliant minds in the industry. Get ready for an exciting episode of our podcast today because I have a very special guest joining us this week. I guess this is who I call a Web3 superstar. Is the founder of the hashtag Web3, a global Web3 community with over 100,000 followers. I'm also a member of that community, and there are also many people from different parts of the world as members of that community. I guess, is also a fellow of the Royal Social of Arts, Manufactures and Commerce, London. I guess has worked across multiple industries and top brands like KPMG, Pressport, etc. So when I say my guest today is a Web3 superstar, he is indeed a Web3 superstar. I'm thrilled to have Vedang with me on the show today. Hi, Vedang. Welcome to the Web3 Quick Bite podcast. We're excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you very much for inviting. I'm doing great.
All right. Okay, so just before we get into it, do you mind telling us about your experience and how you found yourself in Web3?
My experience in Web3 has been very good. It is a very new field, and luckily I got into this field at the right time. So yes, briefly, I'm enjoying my time in understanding this new technology.
So, how long have you been working in the Web3 industry?
I started working in this field since 2015, so it has been around 7 years.
Wow. Wow, that's quite a long time. Unlike us newbies, I just joined for a long time. And I know most people, when I ask them this question, they usually have an interesting experience how they found themselves on Web3. Some they found themselves on Web3 as they were just being curious. Some a friend told them, or some they just found themselves surfing the internet and like, oh yeah, what's this? What's this thing? And then before they know, they're already in the Web3 industry. Was that how it was for you, or you just found yourself in Web3 by chance?
So I was already I already have a technical background. I'm a computer engineer. Uh, so I keep it I keep a track of everything that goes on in the world in the field of technology. AI was something that was popular a couple of years ago, and then came the concept of quantum, and then crypto became popular all of a sudden. And after crypto, there was this new concept of blockchain that was, coming out of a couple of companies, and that is when I started looking at it, and I found it interesting. So yes, I started my journey in Web3 by understanding the basic concept of blockchain and crypto, of course. Crypto, of course.
Yeah, I mean, crypto was basically the one thing that got everybody started in Web. That's quite interesting. And thanks for sharing that with us. So, on today's episode, we are discussing marketing strategies for website projects. I mean, some of my listeners are probably listening right now, and they have website projects, and they're worried like, okay, how do I market it? How do I get people? How do I bring people on board? How do I get people to learn about my projects and whatnot? So, as someone who has worked with both Web2 and Web3 companies, you have the best of both worlds, if I can put it that way. So, what are the key differences between marketing Web3 projects and traditional marketing?
Hmm. So it's an interesting concept actually. So in Web3, uh, Web3 marketing is a relatively new field, and there are a number of key differences between Web3 marketing and the traditional form of marketing. Uh, One is that Web3 projects are often built on the idea of decentralization, which means that they don't have the same level of reach or visibility as compared to traditional businesses. This also means that Web3 marketers need to be more creative and strategic in their approach. This also need to they, I mean, these Web3 marketers, they have to focus more on building relationships with the target audience. So in Web3, we hear the concept of community a lot, and I believe that trust is the main aspect of community building, and which is something new because because the concept of community building was not as much popular earlier as it is popular in Web3. So yes, community building and the core idea of decentralization is something that is different in Web3, and because of this idea of decentralization, it is difficult to build processes, projects, which is why there is a whole new area of creativity that marketers need to employ in Web3.
Yes, I actually quite agree. And the part where you say Web3 is still a new space, because it is. It is relatively new. And there are lots of one has to be, if I should use the word smart, when it comes to marketing your project. Because unlike Web2, which has diverse options, diverse platforms, Web3 doesn't have that opportunity yet, doesn't have that leverage yet. So thanks for explaining that to us in clear terms on how to a Web3 project. So which brings me to my other question. You mentioned community. I mean, and we all know people who are in Web3 knows that community is basically the lifeblood of Web3. There's no lone wolf in Web3. You can't do it all by yourself. You have to network with people, you have to partner with people. So I would like to ask, so what does community refer to? I mean, community is what we all hear in Web3. What does it refer to specifically in the domain of Web3?
Hmm. So my idea of community is that when this whole new concept of Web3 decentralization, this whole revolution of decentralization was taking place, was picking up pace, then we needed a couple of people who who can interact with each other, who who come from the same mindset, and this is, I believe, that this is how the idea of community was, you know, uh, thrown into Web3. So community basically is a group of people who think alike, who believe in the same idea or cause. So yes, in brief, it is like a group of people who think in a similar way. Now, Web3 is a new subject. Web3 was not there, a couple of years ago. So Web3 being a new subject, it is important to have a community, a group of people who are interested in this new domain. And this community can help to propagate the idea or a specific project. This community can help to educate others, share information, and you know, in 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 brief, they can support each other in this journey of Web3. So Web3 community can be built in a some in a number of ways. One way is to create a forum, or basically an online chat room where people can discuss Web3, discuss about Web3, about Web3 projects, about the ideas of Web3. Another way is to create a social media group, so where people can come together and share ideas and talk about things. Additionally, mm, I believe that Web3 communities, at least as of now, Web3 communities focus more on specific projects or initiatives, and which is where the economic, or the real aspect of projects come into a picture. There are a number of benefits, there are a number of advantages, positives of having a community in Web3. Firstly, it is helpful to have a community so that people can understand what is going on. People can learn about new things. People can get educated about Web3, about the new technology. So this is a whole new technology. There are not a lot of people in the world who knows about Web3 or what exactly is going on in cryptographic, or these high level technological processes. So secondly, so first it can help educate everyone about what is going on in Web3. Secondly, it can help people to connect with each other and and support each other. Uh, so the whole idea becomes like community can be a way to cross the whole, you know, river of difficulty if there is any. And if you're building a community, you need to be sure, you need to ensure that you are, you know, you are working on something that will create value. Otherwise, the members of the community will eventually understand that there is some bogus thing going on. There's some, you know, something wrong with the project or something wrong with the idea. So yes, to summarize my answer, community is basically a group of people which can help each other grow, understand, and learn. And the core aspect of having of such a community is trust and the legitimacy of the project. Back to you.
Wow. Thanks for giving us that detailed answer and a detailed response to my question. So we're still talking about community, but right now I want to ask, as someone who is well experienced with a track record of building communities, can you give us insight into how you were able to build and grow hashtag Web3 community?
Hmm. So when I want, hashtag community started as a hobby project for me. I was interested in technology. I was reading a lot about quantum AI, ethical aspects of AI and IoT. I was reading about everything, and then the concept of blockchain came in. I wanted to talk to other people, so but I was not able to, find such people. So what I did was I started this community. I started hosting small events, small online events, and this is when I started a WhatsApp group, a small group on WhatsApp, and whoever joined this event, I asked them to join this WhatsApp group as well, so that we can continue the discussion about the things that we discussed in that event. So this is how I started my community. It started as a hobby project. I then, brought together people by organizing an online event, and then from there I from one group I expanded it to several groups on WhatsApp and then Telegram and then other social media networks. And I think the collective effort of everyone, of the community members, has helped a lot in expanding the trust and the legitimacy of having a platform where people can come, interact, and find each other in the space of Web3. So yes, today hashtag Web3 has more than I think 100,000 people on different platforms, and uh, there's no there's no there's no direct uh, incentive for any member to become to be active in those communities. But if they get active, they get the space and visibility, which is always beneficial for any new project. Uh, I think that should suffice my answer to this question.
Wow, because hashtag Web3 is actually a global community. I think it was recommended to me by someone who was in the Web3 space. Like, yeah, you should join this. They post really nice things. You can meet new people. You can network with them. They also post job opportunities. I think most people actually join because of the daily job postings that's always put up on the group. And I think I've seen testimonials somewhere where people have gotten jobs, have made networks, have made connections. So you that the community is actually is a successful one. Great job. Great job. Uh, well, back to marketing Web3 project. So as someone who is looking to market a Web3 project, what advice will you give to someone like that?
Hmm. So advice to someone who's looking to market a Web3 project. Uh, Let me first bring in my experience. Let me share things that I learned in the journey of understanding how to market a Web3 project. So I figured out that people do not like to talk a lot. They want opportunities. They want something that can bring value to them. So the first thing that is very important in any community or any initiative is to understand how you can bring value to people. So jobs, like you mentioned, all the way, jobs is something that I understood that people want, and I started putting a lot of efforts in making sure that I can bring good jobs, curated jobs to people, and that is how I built my built a Telegram channel related to Web3 jobs, which is which is among the biggest Web3 job channel on Telegram right now. So first aspect of 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 marketing would be to understand how you can bring value to your target users, and for that you need to do your research. It is important to uh, understand the whole Web3 space and understand what your project is about, what is the target audience, and what are the pain points of those of that target audience. So yes, first point is do your research, do your understand what exactly are you doing, what exactly is the need, what exactly is the target audience, and then try to bring together those members of that target audience. By bringing together, let me use the main term here again: build a community. Bring together the kind of people that your project wants to focus on. That bring together the kind of people that may use your project or product, and build a community. Bring them together, give them value, and uh, yes, build a community of those people. It can start with 10 people only, but be consistent and keep providing them value. And then the one of the famous forms of marketing in Web3 is influencer marketing. You need to find the right set of influencers who talk about the specific aspect of Web3 that your project focus on, and then you can start building a relation with them, try to understand their philosophy and their way of thinking about things in Web3, and potentially you can partner with them and get them, make them, you know, promote your project. So influencer marketing is a major thing in Web3. And the last one is, I believe, content marketing, which is very important as per my personal experience. So Web3 is a new field. Web3, not a lot of people know about Web3, and not a lot of people know about the technologies that are there in Web3. It is a highly complex thing, and which brings the whole arena of education. So you need to create a lot of content. You need to create a lot of things that can help people understand what is Web3, and that is how you can improve the adoption in the whole world. So content marketing, and specifically focusing on content related to education, is something I believe, one of the major things in the when we talk about things that can help you market a Web3 project.
Mm, that's actually a valuable advice that you've given us. And if you're listening to this, I hope you will take this advice. If you're looking to market your Web3 project, this advice will come in handy for you. And so we're still on marketing Web3 project. Yeah, I also like to ask that, okay, what are some effective ways to market Web3 project to a wider audience?
Can you please repeat the question?
What are some effective ways to market Web3 projects to a wider audience?
Effective ways to market. I think we talked a little about this in the last question as well, but briefly, I believe that yes, influencer marketing is a very big thing. It is being used by a lot of people. Then community building, like we talked about like I mentioned in the last response. So community building, influencer marketing, and content marketing. These are the three primary things that I believe are important in Web3 marketing. I also have good, I also think positive about social media, but you need to understand which social media networks, which social media platforms you need to focus. So Telegram is a thing when we talk about Web3. WhatsApp, mm, mm, WhatsApp is a thing, but not in all the countries. So there are some parts of the world that do not use WhatsApp, but then you need to figure out what is your target audience. There are some parts of the world that uses that they focus on different social messaging apps. Like Signal is popular in some areas, WeChat is popular in other areas. You need to figure out which social messaging platforms you can utilize. WhatsApp and Telegram is famous. These two platforms are famous, at least in Asia, they are. Uh, and Reddit, uh, Twitter, of course, then Discord, and to some extent, LinkedIn. So social media, influencer marketing, content marketing, and community building. These are the primary. These are some of the most effective and famous forms of marketing uh, in Web3.
Mm, that's great. Thank you. So, I was talking about community building. What are the key principles of community building in Web3?
Key principles of community building. Um I think when we when we start bringing people together, it is very important that the owner or the community manager or the admin of that community is a neutral figure, is supportive, is genuine, is basically promoting a genuine project, not a rug pull or not a scam. So trust is important. Uh, it is important to accept the opinions that may not align with yours. So inclusivity is an important aspect. Um, and then any community would, prosper if there is engagement. So the community managers need to ensure that there is effective and genuine engagement, but engagement should not be confused with noise. So it needs to so there should be engagement, but genuine engagement. There should be inclusivity. Different ideas should be encouraged to some extent. To, the reason why I'm saying to some extent is because there needs to be some rules so that this so that forums or discussions do not become a spam center. So yes, inclusivity, engagement, and trust. I believe these are the three key principles of community building in Web3.
Right, great. So, as someone who has a community, a successful one at that, how can projects measure the success of their community building and marketing efforts?
Hmm. I think it is dependent on the kind of project that we are talking about. For some projects, maybe engagement, the number of engagement can be a factor, or a data point that they can measure and feel happy about. But on the other hand, there can be some projects where meaningful engagements, even if that is just one message in the whole day by just one member, is effective. So it is highly dependent on what kind of project that we are talking about. If it is purely about jobs, so let us take an example of a community that talks about Web3 jobs. So it is so one way of measuring the outcome or the effectiveness of this community can be the number of jobs that are getting posted. But on the other hand, the vision or the mission of this community can also be about posting jobs that cross a specific threshold of salary. So then it will invite less job postings, but more quality job postings. And this is how I believe the parameters of success change from quantity to quality, or other such factors. Um, so other such factors of success can include the number of community members, the engagement that I already talked about. Then for some specific type of communities, we can also take into consideration the number of followers if we are talking about specific platforms that has the count of followers public. Mm, then of course the mix of coverage, engagement, media coverage, or PR. I think that should be it. So to summarize, I believe the number of community members, the engagement in a way that you want to measure. If you want to measure, it in terms of number of messages, and it's up to the project. Then otherwise, you can measure the outcome in the way in any factor of quality, whichever suits the project. And then social media followers, or the kind of people who are linked to you in any way whatsoever, can be another such factor.
Thanks for sharing that with us. And so to the final question, this particular question I like to ask all my guests because I like to get different answers and different opinions. So looking ahead, what are your predictions for the future of Web3 and its potential to revolutionize the industry?
Mm, my prediction. So I think things change very quickly in Web3. And at one moment things were looking good for X project, but then quickly another such project, another a different project came into light, and that attracted everyone's eyeballs. So it is very difficult to predict what is going to happen in Web3. We never knew. AI was almost dead, but then ChatGPT came, and now every other person is talking about AI. So unless there's a ChatGPT moment, I don't believe things are going to move very fast in Web3. So it is very hard to predict something in Web3. But yes, I hope that things will work well in the field of uh, zero knowledge, or Web3 gaming is still I believe that there's still some potential in the field of Web3 gaming. So these two things I believe are mm, going to prosper in a positive way. And if we are going to see any update on the policy or regulation front from major countries, then I believe we can see some major changes happening in the crypto or CBDC uh, subjects, uh, in these subjects. Yes. So yes, it is highly dependent on how governments act uh, uh, in response to crypto updates happening in the whole world.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited about what the future holds for Web3. I, for one, cannot wait for Web3 to gain that mainstream adoption and have like so many users, and then everyone's just talking about Web3, and it's not relatively new anymore. But like you said, it can be quite unpredictable because things move very fast in this industry. But the future is looking good. If if both things being equal, the future is actually looking quite good for the Web3 ecosystem. But yeah, thanks for sharing your own thoughts and opinion about the future of Web3. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Web3 Quick Bites. And thank you so much to our special guest, Vedang, for sharing his insights and expertise on marketing strategies for website projects in the Web3 space. I hope you guys all learned a lot from him today. And if you have any questions or feedback on today's episode, do not hesitate to reach out to us on our social media platforms or send a mail to web3quickbites@gmail.com. Thanks again to Vedang for joining us today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We hope when we invite you next time, you honor us with your presence again on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting.
All right. So we'll be back next week with more exciting content. So be sure to subscribe and tune in. See you next week. Bye.